Have you ever heard of something called game theory? Well, from the name itself, it is a theory and it has something to do with games. And while it can be related to the typical games you already know, such as Warcraft, Dota, or Fortnite, there could be many more different applications to it. So, what is game theory? Although in my opinion, you could trace the history of game theory all the way back to the different strategies generals would use in the Peloponnesian War, or even back to the decisions Neanderthals would make in the DC era. As a science, however, it could be traced as late as the 1950s through the pioneering of John Nash. His life was actually featured in a film called A Beautiful Mind, which won 4 different Academy Awards. He was portrayed by Russell Crowe. Now, John Nash is the pioneer for the creation of game theory as a science which is used today by many economists, mathematicians, scientists, psychologists, and even tacticians. He is also responsible for creating the Nash equilibrium, which is basically the best choice a player can choose no matter what the opponent decides to do. Game theory as a theory has the ability to impact practically any field. Since it revolves around the science of strategy making, it has become an essential tool for decision-making processes which would result in the best possible outcome to the player. Game theory has the capacity to impact a whole generation, from the critical decisions of a war general to the everyday decisions of a regular person like you. Game theory has impacted our lives in more ways than you can imagine. So now that we know what game theory is, let's discuss the different types of games. First, let's discuss simultaneous and sequential games. A sequential game is a game where one player chooses their action before the other chooses theirs. Examples of which would be chess, Monopoly, backgammon, tic-tac-toe, and Go. A simultaneous game, on the other hand, is a game where each player chooses his action without knowledge of the actions chosen by other players. So, from the name itself, it could be done simultaneously. An example of which would be rock, paper, scissors. Another type of game would be perfect and imperfect information. Perfect information refers to the fact that each player has the same information that would be available at the end of the game. This is, however, each player knows or can see each other player's moves, an example of which would be chess. If otherwise, it is what you call an imperfect information game. An example would be the game Battleship. Another set of types of games are complete information and incomplete information. Complete information is a game in which knowledge about players is available to all participants. Examples would be chess or even poker. In a game with incomplete information, players do not possess full information about their opponents. You could see this in games like Battleship and games of the General. There is a famous problem in game theory called the prisoner's dilemma. However, I'll show you another interesting problem which shows the intricacies and usage of game theory. Imagine you're a soldier on the defensive line. There will be a great battle, and there are 2 possible outcomes of the battle, either victory or defeat, and 2 possible outcomes for you, either you survive or you die. Clearly, your preference is to survive. If your line is breached, you will die. However, even if your defensive line holds, you may die in battle. it seems that your best option is to run away. However, if you do so, the ones who stay behind and fight may die. You realize that every other person in the line is thinking the exact same thing. So if you decide to stay and cooperate but everyone else flees, of course, you'll then die. This problem has plagued many military strategists and generals since the beginning of warfare. That's why there is generally a new condition entered into the equation. If you flee or defect, you will be shot as a traitor. Therefore, the best chance you'll have of surviving is to keep your position on the line and fight for victory. How does this relate to game theory? In analyzing this problem, you are able to see and observe the many possible scenarios that may happen for the soldier. You may weigh out the different possible outcomes to your benefit, just like how we make decisions in our daily lives. Game theory isn't just the study of how to win a game of chess or how to create a role-playing game scenario. Often, game theory doesn't even remotely relate to what you'd commonly consider to be a game. Game theory can be used in our everyday lives through the decisions we make throughout any given day. Through game theory, we are able to analyze each and every decision we make as we go on with our lives. Thanks for listening.